At Curiosity and Truth, we examine the stories that refuse to stay buried. Years after Jeffrey Epstein's death, newly released files are reopening questions many believed were already answered. This is what the documents reveal and why the fallout is still growing. In early 2025, a familiar name returned to the headlines. Jeffrey Epstein. Years after his death, newly released court documents reignited a case many believed was already buried. The files didn't bring closure. They raised new questions about power, protection, and how some people seem to exist above the law. On the PBD Podcast, episode 731, Patrick Bet-David and his panel examined what these revelations really mean and why the fallout is still growing. The newly released Epstein files are not a verdict. They are depositions, testimonies, and court exhibits tied to long-running civil cases connected to Epstein's network. Some names were already known. Others surprised the public. The files don't automatically prove guilt, but they confirm proximity, associations, access. On the PBD Podcast, the panel emphasizes a critical distinction. Being named isn't the same as being convicted. But silence, they argue, is no longer an option. Jeffrey Epstein's case refuses to fade because it challenges a dangerous assumption that justice applies equally to everyone. Epstein wasn't just wealthy. He was connected. Politicians, billionaires, academics, royalty. The panel argues that Epstein didn't operate in isolation. He operated within a system that rewarded silence and punished exposure. His death closed a criminal case, but it opened a permanent trust gap between the public and institutions meant to protect them. One of the podcast's sharpest critiques focuses on media behavior. Why are some names amplified, while others disappear from headlines? The panel points to selective outrage. When accusations align with political or cultural narratives, coverage explodes. When they don't, stories quietly fade. In the Epstein case, that inconsistency is impossible to ignore. The files force an uncomfortable question. Is the media protecting the public or protect? ING access. The PBD panel makes one thing clear. This story is no longer about Epstein. It's about accountability. Who gets investigated? Who gets immunity? And who decides when the story ends? The panel doesn't claim to have all the answers, but they argue that transparency, not silence, is the only path forward. Because when powerful people face no consequences, trust collapses. And when trust collapses, institutions fail. Legitimacy. The release of the Epstein files didn't resolve the scandal. It exposed a pattern of influence without accountability, of justice delayed and possibly denied. As discussed on the PBD Podcast, the fallout continues not because people want scandal, but because they want answers. And until those answers arrive, this story isn't going away.